An introvert ran business. What?
Welcome to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Dupree, scouring the globe to bring you stories of courage, passion, and resilience. If I could sum up this podcast into one word, I would use empathy. Now let's get inspired.
Welcome to episode 5 of the Joyous Expansion Podcast. I am your host, Brett Dupree, here to tell you what a wonderful, too warm day in Seattle, Washington. It got all the way up to the 90s today, folks. If you know anything about us Washingtonians on the west side of Washington in the Seattle area, you know that we are weather wimps. The idea of having weather this hot is too much. Too much. But here I am living my life in this very, very warm weather, thinking to myself, wow, isn't life exciting? And what is exciting is my podcast has been out, and this is the first recording I have made since I released my podcast. The Joyous Expansion Podcast, a podcast that I didn't know what the name was going to be because I wanted to use something about working through fear. However, since my marketing and branding has been Joyous Expansion, I should probably keep what my branding is, though part of me was wondering if that meant newer people weren't able to find it and like it and think, give it a try in the huge wave of different podcasts out there. I know I'm not the only one. And of course, when I released my podcast, that is when my fear did happen. I had what I call minimum expectations. I was hoping, because I released 3 in the same day, 3 podcasts in the same day. And I was hoping for 20 listens. Yeah, 20. I wanted to keep my expectations low. Of course, when you're doing something like this, you think somehow you're going to hit 1,000 and everything's going to be amazingly awesome. And you dream and you vibrate and you do all the spiritual things. But I was hoping for 20. What I got was 6. That is less than 20. It is a lot less than 20. It's not what I expected. To my 20 or so listeners, or 3 listeners. It's hard to tell because when we released 3, did that means you had people listen to individuals, or did that mean you had people listening to a couple people listen? All of them. Actually, what it turned out, I believe it's one of the people actually shared the podcast and they got a whopping 4 listens. And then the other 2 were listens most likely from someone who actually listened to all 3 podcasts. And here's the thing. I did not think 20 was that big of a goal. In fact, it was my minimum of, I should at least get 20, because I had over 20 people saying they're going to my podcast launch event. I don't know why launch did not pop into my head. On my Facebook page, I have family. I have a mom. I have a dad. That should be 6 listens right there. I have sisters. One of them could pick it up. And I have close friends. So just thinking, mom, dad, bam, that's 6. One of my friends, bam, that's 9. Another one and maybe another close friend, that's 12. And then the people who would share, there's 3 people sharing their podcast, sharing at least on their Facebook page that they're in a podcast. Bam, at least one, they get 1 or 2 apiece. 20 should be easy peasy lemon squeezy. But 20 did not happen. So that is what happened. And I felt that pain of disappointment, that sadness that even my low expectations did not happen. It's like when my book release party and all I wanted to do was break a profit and I did not make that. Or every workshop that I put on that I just wanted to break a profit and I did not do that. Or the fact that I create YouTube videos and I hope they get some views. I remember one of them I created was actually pretty recently. I made it on The Last Jedi and the lessons learned for The Last Jedi. Checked it 2 weeks later. 0 views. Literally 0. That means absolutely no one found it and nobody listened to it. When I think about my career in the last 10 years of trying to launch Joyous Expansion, trying to launch a business where I help people realize their dreams, help people unleash the passion within, help people recognize the joy of life personally, I've been thrown off by disappointment. And that's the sad part is, folks, as I keep on reading all these people and listening to all these people's talk about how so many years ago YouTube was right there for the taking, but now it's difficult. Luckily, they started at the beginning of YouTube. I was there. Of course, I waited like 3 years or 4 years until YouTube didn't take off, until YouTube was more so of people putting their stuff out there. And it's the same with podcasts. I did start a podcast a few years back, and I stopped because I didn't get the response. But I could have started 10 years ago. Facebook ads was the same way. I would start something and then not get the response I wanted, and then stop. Start something, not get the response I wanted, and then stop. I would get stuck in the trap of results. It's not saying that you shouldn't want to get results. Getting results are amazing. Who doesn't want the results? Who doesn't want to make a podcast and actually have people listen? Who doesn't want to put YouTube videos out there and then have people watch? But that's not how you become successful. I mean, yes, you want to look at results and see what works and see what doesn't. I'm reminded of a story of Mike Birbiglia. He is a stand-up comedian. And he said pretty much to make it, you have to be delusional. Those first few years, 10 years or so, or 5, I don't know how long it took. I don't remember off the top of my head. He had to go on stage in front of 5 people and completely bomb and then come off stage. And when somebody asked him how it went, he would go, it went amazing. Why? Because he was going for his dream. And he put more of his thoughts and attention on the fact he was going for his dream, the fact he was doing what he loved instead of the results that he got. And eventually he was able to find what worked and what didn't work. And now he has 3 movies, My Girlfriend's Boyfriend and Sleepwalking with Me. I think it's called Sleepwalk with Me. Some great stand-up specials. He's actually one of my favorite stand-up comedians. He is hilarious. I find his videos to be very inspiring. And that's why the last 2 years I decided I just want to keep the ultimate mindset and continue to move forward. And the reason why I'm starting this podcast is not exactly to get results, but man, do I want those sweet, sweet, sweet results of listens, people going to my affiliate link and buying things, people just sending me money because they love the sound of my sexy, sexy voice. But at the same time, too many times I've just got stuck with this idea that I need to be successful now, that I need to make a profit now. I mean, I have enough money to be able to put food on my table. Obviously, if you've seen my belly, you know I'm well fed. I have a roof over my head. I don't need this, but I want it. So I need to focus on the fact that I want it. I need to focus on the fact that nothing makes me happier than going on here talking to you. Nothing makes me happier than going to Toastmasters and learning how to better serve myself. Nothing makes me happier than getting in front of people and inspiring them. The results might not come with consistency, but consistency is the only way to get results, to move forward, to push forward, to keep on going every day, even though life keeps on telling you that you should stop. That is when people ask me if they should be a life coach. I ask them one question. Are you doing it to make money? Are you doing it on a whim? Or are you doing it because you have to? You have to. Now, I'm doing this because I have to, because anytime I do not, anytime I spend even a weekend and not doing anything, I feel sad. I can feel it in my heart. I can feel it in my soul. I do not feel fulfilled. And when I make this podcast, when I make that video, when I send that email, when I create that speech and deliver it, I feel alive. I feel love. I feel joy. I feel the depth of my being feeling amazing. And when I think of myself when I'm in my 60s and thinking back, I can't imagine being happy if I stopped. I can't imagine feeling fulfilled if I just gave up. Even if that meant I had the white picket fence. Feel like it's almost too late for the 2.5 kids. And everything else you said you need to be happy. Or the other one, I'm just barely making it still. I'm practically homeless. And I look back and thinking, man, at least I went for it. At least I did something. At least I followed my heart. Because that's the most important part about living life this way. You have to follow your heart. And I know life with heart does not mean you have to be a something amazing entrepreneur that makes a crap ton of money. Following your heart to be a pizza delivery man. Following your heart to be a warehouse worker. Following your heart. As long as you're following your heart. I mean, some people out there don't want to do something like this. They just want to have a 9 to 5 and come home and spend time with their kids. And that is where their heart is. So it's all about following your heart. And my heart tells me that my podcast is where I should be at this moment in time. I've made a self-dedication that at least we'll get 50 up. I don't know if that's going to happen since this is number 5. And I am very good at being excited at first. I am happy to say that at this point, after the 4th release, I finally hit 22 listens. So I did reach my immediate goal. Yes, fist pump. I didn't check today to see how many. Last I checked was Thursday, so maybe I have 25. I don't know. But I have received some positive feedback. Some people telling me that they enjoyed my podcast. Some people telling me that they listened, which is, a step below enjoying. Hey, if someone listened, they listened. That's what really matters. And speaking of listening and speaking of going for it, that brings us to our next interviewee. First, I would like to apologize for the fact that the audio isn't the best. However, saying that, I did not want to ask her to re-record again, mostly because I don't know if she would have showed up. This was a huge stretch for her, getting out here in front of you, putting herself out there, and that's the excitement. As I said before, I'm a Toastmaster, and nothing makes me happier than listening to an icebreaker. An icebreaker is the first speech you give in Toastmasters, and a lot of times, that's when people are the most afraid, and it's amazing. Julie Gray was a great interview. I learned a lot from her, and I am very excited to share this one with you. She's a very special person. I've met her at the Egyptian meditations at the Modern Mystery School. I love group meditations. And I've gotten to know her, and I asked her to be on my podcast, and she said yes, and hooray, and now you get to listen to the interview. So let's bring you Julie Gray, a medium and certified Usui Reiki Master, Elemental Dragon Reiki Master, Fusion Reiki Master, and Holy Fire Practitioner. She is also a certified crystal healer. Her heart is in working with essential oils and herbs. She loves making essential oil blends to help people in their everyday life. And all the oil blends she makes are intuitively made, which means her spirit guides give her the oils and herbs to use in each blend. Well, there you go, folks. I'm excited to introduce you to Julie Gray. Welcome, Julie Gray, to my podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. And yourself?
I am doing amazing. It is a beautiful day to be alive.
It is very pretty here.
So tell people what...
Well, I am a medium and an intuitive healer, and I also create a line called Gray Moon Goddess Essential Oil Blends. And it's a combination of essential oils and herbs mixed into different blends for healing or to help with anxiety or change your mood, protection, smudging, whatever's needed.
Awesome. How did you get into it?
I got into it kind of because I wanted something for myself. And as I started to read up a little bit about oil blends and so on and how to use them, my guide started kicking in and started showing me or giving me names for certain essential oils to put together to create a spray or a roll-on. And my very first one was one that I call All Love. And it is to help raise the vibration for yourself and in your space. And so that was really interesting for me because when I first started, I hadn't thought about putting crystals with the oil blends. And my guide said, nope, you have to put a ruby in that oil blend and let it sit for a month. And so that's what I did, and that started the ball rolling, and all of them sit with a crystal or stone of some kind for a minimum of a month, sometimes longer, before it gets mixed in with a carrier oil and bottled.
Oh, wow. That is really cool.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you first started hearing your guides?
It was a little bit of a trip. I wasn't sure what I was hearing. The very first time I heard them, I thought, okay, I'm going a little crazy, But then I started realizing that the thoughts and voices that I was hearing in my head weren't mine. It was worded in a way that I wouldn't have said it. And so that was my first key to know that that wasn't me just thinking something.
How did you deal with that doubt?
That doubt, well, I still have it every once in a while. I'm like, did I just think that, did I just make that up? But you listen and I muscle test, to make sure that it wasn't me making that up and it was coming from my guides. But you have to learn to start trusting it.
Can you give a brief explanation to our listeners what muscle testing is?
Muscle testing is I use my fingers and I attach my thumb and first finger, put the tips together, and I intertwine my fingers. So my fingers, when I ask to show me a yes, it either moves side to side or it could bust through to break the fingers apart. And then once I get my yes, I ask for my no, and whatever didn't happen for my yes will usually happen for the no. And so then I'll ask a yes or no question. Like, was this thought something I made up? And I use my fingers and see which way it goes. And usually it says no. So then I know it was for my guides.
Yeah, I like to use muscle testing. The way I use it is I kind of like stand still, and if I ask a question, I move forward if it's a yes, and if we're back, it's a no.
I do that too a lot. Except mine is if it's yes, I go backwards. And if it's a no, I sway side to side.
Oh, wow. It's fun how everyone's different.
Yeah. Yeah. But I will also use a pendulum for the same thing. So it's like using a pendulum, but it's just using your own body.
Ah, your body's the pendulum.
Yes.
So when it comes to taking your intuition and taking your gifts and pushing it into a business that is to make money, what are some of the roadblocks that you run into?
Well, when I first started making the oil blends, like I said, it was mostly for myself, but then I started sharing them with my friends and they started requesting them more and more. And so that's when I decided that, well, if my friends want it, maybe other people want it. So I started bottling it and labeling it. And for me, it's a little difficult to to sell the product to a store or something because I get so attached to it. Every product is like my baby. And so for me, it's selling a part of myself. And I have a hard time doing that. I don't know why. I need to get better at that, but it does. So I started small in a friend's shop and started selling it in her shop on consignment. And then I decided it did pretty well there. So I took it online and I took it to an Etsy shop and now it's on my webpage that I have. So I have a couple different outlets and I'm actually thinking about starting to branch out.
Ooh, how are you thinking about branching out?
Well, I'm going to start branching out. I know some other people who are in the process of opening up a small day spa. Some of my products they're going to use in their day spa on their clients, plus also have them available for sale there. And it's also going to it's helping me branch out into other products that I've dabbled in the past that I will bring back and blend with my essential oils that I have now. So I think they'll be a little bit better, like sugar scrubs and lip scrubs and just, yeah, cuticle oil and that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to that new adventure. And as soon as I get more information about it, I'll tell everybody. And I'm thinking about expanding into more stores, contacting owners of other stores that my product would fit into, I'm going to create a flyer with a starter bundle offered or the option to buy individual products for their store and get those sent out and follow up with phone calls and, just kind of be annoying to them, get my products in their shops.
That's so cool. Really putting yourself out there and growing. What are do you have some of those feeling? I know when I try to work out there and grow, especially right now with my podcast, I'm taking a leadership role in my Toastmasters and some other things that are coming my way at this moment. And I can also look at my past. When I grow that comfort zone, sometimes I feel that resistance block that happens, almost like those voices in the back of my mind, and could feel my feelings kind of contract a little bit as trying to almost fight to get me back into my comfort zone.
Right. And your comfort zone is that space where, everything is easy and you're not stretching your limits at all. And I am totally going out of my comfort zone with all of this. It's hard to do But when I have a good momentum built, it's easier to stay on task. But when I don't have that momentum built up for the day, like following up on emails or making calls or whatever, I start to think, you can't do this. What do you think you're doing? And so then I have to talk myself back out of that mode and get myself back on track and going, okay, that was just a moment in time. It doesn't define everything, and I can move forward.
Do you have a process that you do this?
No, it changes from day to day, unfortunately. I have actually started watching a few YouTube videos by this one person who she is not into anything really and truly that I am, but she is growing her own brand, and listening to her achieve her daily goals and how she goes about doing it with a little bit of comedy is inspiring to me. And so if I really think that I'm feeling like I can't do it and I can't shake the feeling and I'm in it for a day, then I definitely watch several of her videos, and it helps me to be re-inspired. Then I go, okay, and I start, it could be 10 o'clock at night and I'm like, okay, and I start making my to-do list for the next day and writing down all the notes that start flooding to me. And so, yeah, that's how I handle it.
That is a great way. I mean, that's one of the best parts about living in the world that we live now is that there's just so much inspiration out there. So many people who are out there working towards their goal. That's kind of the idea of this podcast as well, as showing people such as yourself who are building something to better this world, and people hearing your story and your struggles as you push through it hopefully inspires them to keep on going.
Right. And I agree. I think that everybody should share their story, and because you never know when something you say can trigger that motivation in somebody else. I do that often on my Instagram and my Facebook page that I have. I make a post, and a lot of times what I'm posting about is something that I am going through or just went through in my own life, and realize, well, maybe other people are having the same issue, and they need to know that there is answers that can come and they can get help, and it's not the end of the world, and you can move through this, and don't forget that you are loved.
That's very beautiful. One thing I do know about you, and I think we've talked about this, is that you're more of an introverted person than extroverted, kind of shy.
I am until you get to really get to know me. I am more quiet, I am more shy. I have high anxiety. I get a lot of anxiety when I'm supposed to go even to dinner with a group of like 5 other people that who I know well. I will cancel.
So here you are, someone who wants to create something big, and you just mentioned right before that you create videos of talking about what you're going through. That's vulnerable, and that's putting yourself out there. So how do you go about getting yourself to be able to do that?
It's funny because I have to, before I can make that video, I have to feel good that day. I have to think that my appearance is put together, or I don't make the video. It sounds silly, but I have to make sure I put some makeup on, even though I don't wear makeup every day. And most people who see me without makeup. But before I make a video, it's just what I have to do. It's kind of like putting on a mask so I can be presentable to the world, whoever the few people who see the video, then I can seem to get by it a lot. And I don't look directly into the camera a lot either. I have a tendency to look to the sides, and that's because I'm nervous and the anxiety kicking in. It's not because I don't want to look at people. It's the shyness.
Yeah, that's very admirable to be able to feel that fear and feel that shyness and to keep on going. Because a lot of this personal development and business building isn't about allowing fear to stop us, because fear is just a natural part of life.
Correct. And if you have the fear, you're never going to move forward. If you don't work through that fear, and if you don't remove that blockage, you're never going to move forward in anything, whether it be in creating a business or even just being able to talk to somebody or go someplace that the idea of it gave you anxiety because there was too many people in there, or it was something that you didn't know. If you don't step up to it and face it, you're always going to be in your comfort zone, and there's no growth in comfort zone.
So when you think about putting yourself out there and expanding your comfort zone and putting your products into more places and going out into more places, What are some of the anxieties that come up into actually becoming bigger and more well known for your gift?
Doing personal appearances. Really, truly having to go meet the shop owners in person. That is like my number one anxiety. And then, even though I know that the blends that I make are really helpful for people, can help with so many different things, I have a hard time telling people what they're good for and how it it is amazing and it can help with pain or whatever oil blend I have at the time. I have a hard time conveying that in a way that I'm not fumbling over my words and sound uneducated about my own product.
Yeah, I remember you telling me earlier before the call that when it comes to selling, you're great at it. You can sell other people's products really well. That you're a very good salesperson, but it's yours. There's this block.
Yeah, and that's because I feel so attached to my product. When I sell somebody else's product, I learn everything I can about that product before I try to sell it. It's not mine though. It's not my product. It's not a part of me. Even though I should probably detach myself from the products that I make, I have a hard time doing that because I want to help people and I want them to feel better emotionally and physically and just to be able to live their best lives. So whether it's in the oil blends that I make or the healing sessions that I'm doing or the mediumship, that's what I want them to walk away from is knowing that there is better and they can have a happy life and they can do what they want to do and that they're surrounded with the love that they need both in the physical and spiritual world.
That's very interesting that you bring that up. So you're talking about the idea of wanting to help people and serve people. So reminding yourself of this service allows you to sell yourself better. Is that what you're saying?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, knowing that I'm not out it just to make money. If I made a little bit of money that just enough to pay for the products and keep going, then I'm good with that because my motivation is to help the people feel better. And I have to remember that is my mission to try to fight my anxiety a little bit more. So, and I have to remember that when one person doesn't get the results from the product that other people get, that I can't focus on that one person because it has helped so many other people. Not everything is going to work for everyone. I have to remember that. And that's a hard thing for me to remember because I'm so attached to my product.
Oh yeah, I can very much understand that. The I mean, it's a natural part of being a human, I think. Like during the past a long time ago, if we saw a snake and we didn't if there was a snake and we didn't see that snake, we would die. But if there was a strawberry and we didn't see that strawberry, we would live. So we tend to pay attention more to our fears because fear equals survival. While our pleasures, well, we can skip a few and you know, still live to procreate and all the fun things. So yesterday I went to a meditation. And during this meditation, I thought of one of my life goals, which was I want to have my outside reality not affect my inner peace. And the answer for me came up was love. The idea of to be love and to just love what is going on in my life and in the world. And I was just wondering, what are your thoughts upon that?
I I agree with that. Love is so big and so massive, and it is the energy that can help get you through everything, the good and the bad. And one of my favorite quotes that I like to see is how do you brighten the dark? By feeding it love. A lot of times when we fall into the depression and we fall into the self-worth, it's the feeling unworthy, it's because we're not feeling the love, especially the unworthiness. We're not feeling the love. So we have to find ways to either find that self-love or remember that we do have people around us that do love us and that will be there to talk us through problems or to listen or whatever we need them for. My goals for me are scary, but I'm feeding the fear of them love by moving forward and reminding myself that these products are for people to help them feel better. And that's feeling better is an energy of love.
So, how do your products increase love and help people deal with their fears?
Well, one of the products I have, like I mentioned earlier, is called All Love. That's an oil blend that sits with a ruby, which is one of the love stones. And that helps to raise your vibration and raise the vibration in your space. And when you're raising vibration, that's a pure love vibration that you're raising. And so that can help. I have other products that help with pain. And so when you're in pain, you're not really feeling the love. And by using the pain products that I have, the Pain Be Gone, that is love because you're feeling better. And so then you remember that, oh, I'm not out of pain, or I'm out of pain, and I can move forward with my day, and everything is good again. And when people feel good, then that's a love vibration.
That sounds like an amazing product. I have to get me one of those.
Well, maybe I'll bring you one when I see you at the end of the month.
Awesome. So I'm looking over your bio, and it says that you're an elemental dragon Reiki Master.
Yes.
And I'm thinking Ricky is a typo that you sent me.
Oh, Reiki.
Reiki, yeah, that's what I thought. Can you speak more on being an elemental dragon Reiki Master?
So, Elemental Dragon Reiki Master is working with dragon energy and the elementals earth, air, wind, fire. And I love incorporating this because I'm also a Usui Reiki Master. And I love incorporating the two of them together and having the traditional Reiki along with that dragon energy and the elementals. It just feels more rounded, a more rounded healing session, and more focused on certain areas that the person may need. And sometimes I even get visions of the dragons, which is really cool.
That is pretty awesome. There might be some listeners out there who are thinking of doing something similar to what you do and invoke their guides into their work, be it a massage therapy or making their own oil blends or whatever they do to take that they want to take their business to the next level. What advice would you give somebody who wants to incorporate their spiritual guides into their work?
Really and truly, to be able to hear your guides well, pay attention to them, and know that they're guiding you in your best and highest good. But in order to be able to hear your guides that well, it takes a lot of meditation, communicating with your guides through meditation. And then once you get a good rapport with your guides through meditation and you're hearing them clearly during meditation, you'll start hearing them throughout your day-to-day life, and they'll help you in every aspect of your life, whether it be business or personal, love, whatever, finance.
Do you have a process when it comes to becoming better at listening to your guides?
Well, when the meditation is definitely one of the most important things, and trusting what you hear or see or just know. A lot of mine is just a knowing instead of hearing, trusting that. And that's the hardest part, I think, of the whole process, is trusting that knowing, trusting that hearing, and paying attention to that gut feeling that you have, because that gut feeling is your intuition and that's your knowing. If you're getting if your gut is telling you, no, this is a bad thing, then listen to that. And that's your guides helping you.
So, how do you meditate?
Sometimes my meditation is washing the dishes.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, because, you're washing the dishes. You're not paying attention to the dishes. I mean, you can see, without really thinking that if that dish is clean or not. So I find that I start thinking about a situation that I have coming up or a problem or whatever's on my mind. And by the time I'm done doing dishes, I have the solution for it because my guides have stepped in and started talking to me. And it took me a long time to realize that when I was doing something like washing the dishes or vacuuming or whatever tedious thing like that, I was actually in a meditation and I was getting answers to my guides. I also will sit in a quiet space with my favorite incense burning and maybe some soft music playing, and will go into meditation that way and try to talk to my guides and listen to them. And sometimes I can sit in meditation for 20 minutes, whether it be listening to a guided meditation or not, and think that I didn't get anything. And I get a little upset. I'm like, well, I just sat there for 20 minutes and didn't get anything. But then all of a sudden, something will tell me to grab my pen and paper, and I'll write everything out, all my answers out to the questions that I went into my meditation with.
That is so cool. One thing that I enjoy, I remember when I first heard meditation a long time ago, I always thought of it as something where you sit there, say Om with your legs crossed. But really, meditation can be just anything where you just quiet the monkey mind or that part of your brain that just keeps on talking. So it could be something like washing the dishes, driving the car, but be careful with that. Or one of my favorites is just going for a walk, taking a walk around well, I live in the Seattle area, so Green Lake, and just letting my mind quiet and just going with the flow.
Yeah. But the hardest thing, and it's hard for me at times, is quieting that mind, quieting that chatter, quieting that to-do list that's in your head, and quieting that, oh, I shouldn't be sitting here doing this. I should be, cleaning the bathroom, or, I need to go to the store, or I have to go pick up this person. Quieting that out is the hardest part. And I find for me in the beginning, it takes me a couple minutes before I start to get into the meditation, because I have all this coming in, flying into my brain, and I say, okay, I do have that to do, but I will do that after I'm done with this. This is what I need to do right now. And once I address that one thing, then another thing will come in, and I say the same thing to that. And finally it stops coming in. And then I can be quiet and I can do my meditation. And that happens even if I'm taking a walk and I'm starting to, go into that little bit of a meditation, these thoughts will come flying in. So that's the hardest thing. It's quieting that monkey mind and quieting that chatter and getting over that, and then being able to stay still or quiet.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. So we're getting towards the end of our time, and one thing I like our guests to do is a 1 minute of motivation, where you just kind of boil down your message or give advice to somebody, like a child, yourself as a child or something like that, for like a minute.
A minute. Okay.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it.
My biggest thing is, don't let anybody tell you you can't. I know growing up that I had learning disabilities. And so I was told in school and out of school and everywhere that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And I listened to that for a very long time, halfway through my adulthood. And finally, I realized I don't have to listen to that anymore. I can do what's in my heart. If this is what makes me happy and this can help other people, then that's what I need to be doing. I need to share that love and help others. And that's what I like to do. So, don't listen to the naysayers. If it's in your heart and it makes you happy, you need to go for that dream.
Awesome. That is so cool. Thank you so much for coming on to my podcast. Hearing your story of how you struggle, especially with your shyness and that introverted feeling and anxiety, but still push yourself forward with the desire to serve people, with the desire to help people, and learning how to quiet that mind through meditation and trusting the source of who you are and your heart, I know will help many people out there. So I thank you very much for coming on here and sharing your story and continually doing your best to make this world a better place.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here.
Awesome. I will, actually see you in a week or two.
Okay.
Okay.
And there you have it, folks. Listening over it for the third time. I actually regret not going into when she's talked about how she has to bother people. Because isn't that what happens when you try to sell yourself? There's that part of yourself that thinks, man, am I bothering this person? Am I annoying them? The truth is, if you believe in your product and you believe in what you do, if you get them to the point where they buy it, you know it will serve them. Then they will thank you for bothering them. And the ones that get upset that you're bothering them will finally say, stop talking to me. Which, of course, you should stop talking to them. No means no, even in sales. In that case, in my humble opinion, don't bother people who say stop telling them to bother you, bothering them. Yeah. Well, until you hear that stop bothering me or stop communicating with me, keep on going for it. Keep on pushing on. The thing I love about that interview is the fact that it shows, how someone can move forward with fears and anxieties I even forgot that I talked about heart, which I talked about in part 1. It's funny how sometimes I try to plan the part 1 where I talk about myself and try to roll it over into what we talk about in the interview. This time I didn't listen to the interview until after I recorded the first part, and it fit perfectly. Moving forward and listening to your guides. It's exciting how when that happens. It's super fun. Again, I apologize for the audio. Some parts were harder to listen to with all that clicks and whistles. However, if you did stick through it, if you're here, I know you did, unless you just skipped it to listen to my part, which would be different. But I know you gained value because it was a great interview. I very much enjoyed talking to somebody who is a salesperson and is afraid to sell themselves, that feels anxiety from selling themselves. There's a vulnerability about selling your own products because, as she said, they are your babies. It doesn't matter if you're selling yourself in a physical way, your skills. If you're a life coach, selling your life coaching. If you're an accountant, selling your ability to make numbers. Heck, even just going on a job interview, you're selling yourself in a way, and that's vulnerable. And as someone who's been on many job interviews in his life, can be very draining just putting yourself out there like that. And so I very much enjoyed listening to how Julie puts herself out there. How an introverted person who has a dream, a goal, a desire, puts herself out there and continues to make a difference in this world. I am very proud to be Julie's friend, and I am very proud to have her on my podcast. Maybe one day I'll create first-timer ribbons for all the people who have done 4 podcasts on the first time. I believe it was Emily Stolman-Klein, the previous episodes. That was her first podcast interview ever as well. I know, 2 newbies in a row. How exciting is that? Sometimes Toastmaster, we get 4 icebreakers, and that's so much fun. To be honest, if I didn't tell you, would you have noticed? I doubt it, because she sounded professional, poised to me. Think about it. She was nervous. Probably had thoughts of not showing up, of saying that something came up and then never rescheduling again. And she did it and did such a great job and provided so many great points and shared her story, her vulnerable story. It was great. I learned a lot about talking to my guides, and I know there's some people out there that don't believe in stuff like that. But again, that doesn't matter. What matters is the thoughts and the fears and the doubts that go by it. So pay attention to that part, as I'm sure we all have doubts. We all have fears. Website is Gray Moon Goddess. www.greymoongoddess.com. I never know whether to spell gray with an A or an E. She uses an E. You can also email her at greymoongoddess@gmail.com. Hey, if you use a discount code Brett, all capitalized, BRE 2 T's, you get 10% everything in her shop. She also can do medium work in person or over the phone. So check out www.greymoongoddess.com. I thank you so much for listening to my podcast. Again, I'm Brett Dupree, your host. Joyous Expansion Life Coach is what I call myself. You can find me at joyousexpansion.com, joyusexpansion.com. Yes, there is a sex in there. People love to point that out. You can find my podcast at pod.joyousexpansion.com. If you want to hear how I was a few years ago, you go to podcast.joyousexpansion.com. I believe I think 17 episodes of it there. If you'd like to support me, I have one affiliate link on pod.joyousexpansion.com right now for Acuity scheduling. I use that for all my scheduling needs for my life coaching, especially this podcast. And I can honestly tell you, it's an amazing program that even if you don't go to my affiliate link on pod.joyousexpansion.com, I highly recommend, if you do anything with scheduling and trying to fit into people's schedules, or how people fit in your schedule, I should say, to use that program. It is freaking cool. I like it a lot. If you have any questions or you want to send me any email message about this podcast, you can find me at Brett Dupree, 2 T's, 2 E's at joyousexpansion.com, BRETTDUPREE at joyousexpansion.com. If you like this podcast, of course, leaving a review would be super helpful. Star ratings if it's on iTunes finally. I'm trying to get it on there. Also, share it with your friends, especially any interview that really touches you. Share it with your friends. It'd be really cool to get this out there and show that, we all struggle. Well, thank you so much for listening to my podcast. Episode number 5. Excited to get 5 out there times 10 soon enough. Only 45 to go before I reach my goal of 50. All right. I am Brett Dupree, your Joyous Expansion Life Coach Champion of Authentic Joy, Catalyst of Transformation, reminding you to be joy, to be love, to be awesome. All right. Now play my jingle.
JoyousExpansion.com. JoyousExpansion.com. Come and say hello to Brett Dupree. He is an inspirational life coach, good for you and good for me. He turned my life from grey to blue, I'm sure he'll do the same for you. Get in touch and you'll see your life will change dramatically. JoyousExpansion.com. JoyousExpansion.com. Yeah.